Hello, welcome to the channel. Today I'll be working on an aspiring champion for my Black Legion. I do have 19 other Legionnaires complete, 10 of which I did finish in 2020, and the last of them I have finished within the last week. I'm using some different techniques than I normally rely on, specifically dry brushing. I don't do a lot of dry brushing. I normally rely on edge highlighting and layering. But I chose to do dry brushing on these guys because there was a big batch of them I wanted to get through, and dry brushing is a lot faster for me to do. Alright, with that, it's time to start digging in. I start with gold on these guys. I find that it's the easiest to get out of the way first in case you have instances where it gets on locations you don't want it to be. With putting black over gold is pretty simple. That might take a couple tries, but I'm sure there will be instances where I spill over, and I will show you how I fix those. Alright, so now that we got the gold done, I'm going to move into the silver. I do like to do all of my metallics first, just in this kind of painting scheme that I'm running on these guys. That way I can clean up the parts that I don't want to be metallic after I'm done. Alright, so now that I have the gold cleaned up and the silver pretty well where I want it to be in this stage, I'm going to come back in and clean up the black. Basically, I'll be getting rid of any spots where the metallics have gotten onto the black panels. And that's pretty simply done just by going back over it with your black paint. Alright, here he is with the black cleaned up. You can already see that with the lines where the gold meets the black cleaned, straightened out, uh, and the black kind of applied more evenly, it really makes that gold trim pop a lot stronger. The next step we're going to be doing is washing the entire thing in a little bit of watered down Agrax Earthshade. This kind of adds some age to the silver and the gold, and then whenever we come back in and dry brush over everything with the silver, it will make that look even more distressed. I'm going to apply this pretty thoroughly, kind of focusing on the gold areas and the silver areas. That's where I really want it to lay. It won't really matter that much if it gets on the black. It really has to pool up for that to show against the black, and I'm going to be dry brushing over everything with a silver on the next step anyway. The one thing you do want to watch for as you're applying it, and after it sits for a minute, is pooling on the lower sections, especially on the legs. It seems like this lower part of the model, specifically the trim at the bottom of the leg around the ankles, collects a lot of wash whenever you do the whole model. So now the next step is to dry brush pretty much the entire model with the same silver that I used on the silver spots. Now there is going to be some difference in the tone based off of what I dry brush and what is already on the model because of the wash of brown. And we will see as I dry brush over the model, the edges will pick up that silver tint and it'll add a good kind of wear and tear look to the model overall, which is kind of the goal here. Alright, here we go with this guy all dry brush. I don't do a lot of dry brushing, but I am very satisfied with how this guy turned out. The gold, especially on the shoulder pads, picked up a lot of that silver pigment, giving it a really good distressed look and bringing out the detail on the edges. And then also the areas that I wanted for the black armor to pick up the pigment did as well. Like here on the backpack, these edges, kind of these chevron shapes, picked up about the right amount of silver to give it a distressed look, but not anything overly done. Alright, here he is with the reds and the browns base coated. The next thing I'm going to do is start layering up a little bit on the leather to make it look more leathery. Right now it's just a whole red color. Now I am only using two colors, two independent paints for these guys. Usually if I really want to bring it up to a parade ready, I'll use three colors, usually like a reddish brown, like a whole red up to a neutral brown, and then finally an ivory. And I usually mix up slowly, adding layers to bring it up pretty close, not quite to ivory, kind of a browned down ivory. So this guy, we'll see how it looks, maybe 3-4 steps using two colors. Alright, so at this point, we're ready to add some more detail to the reds, specifically the loincloth and the plume. So what I've done is I have it base coated in corn red. I do like corn red for my chaos guys, not because it's corn, but because the really maroon tones in it make it really easy to build up and add a lot of detail to. It's just a good base color for red. So I have done that, and then I have also washed it again in Agrax, kind of doing the same method where I watch for pooling. There was some pooling up here, kind of in the low spots of the plume, and down here against the gold pinions in the loincloth. So I pull that stuff out as it's drying to make sure it doesn't create really dark spots that will give me issues. Alright, so here with the eyes on this guy, I'm actually going to use three tones. The first is going to be the corn red. I'm going to kind of glaze it around the edges. I'll do a coat on the whole thing, but I'm mostly focusing on getting it glazed around the edges to give it an almost glowing look without having to put in a lot of work of like airbrushing a glow or dry brushing or anything like that. And then after that, I'll go to that middle red with a lot of orange in it. I think actually it's scarlet red is the color itself. I'll have that AK number listed at the end. And then finally I'm going to come back in with an orange to really make it look like it's lit up. Alright, so the next step that I'm going to be working on is some glow effects. I'm going to go with the orange glow here on the plasma pistol, the normal location. Then I'm also going to add some glow effect around the Eye of Chaos on the axe on both sides, kind of really highlighting the chaos symbol there. And then this edge, I'm going to add a power glow that's also going to be orange. I will be using an airbrush for this. I'm using some like white based techniques for glowing and then adding some fluorescent orange on top of that. Then I'm going to come back in with another layer of white ink in the recesses and then top that off with a really light more spray of more fluorescent orange. Then I'm going to come in with some more white ink and lay it into those grooves again. I might place some white ink on a couple places on this edge, probably on that forward side of the edge or some ivory or something to kind of bring the tone up. So when I come back over with the fluorescent paint again, it gives it a bit of a snap on that leading edge.
This is madness. This is...
With the painting on the model pretty well done, I'm going to go into the final stages of this guy. You've noticed that I've popped him off of his base. That is for basing purposes. Also, I am going to be adding dust effects below the knee. I'll be using some pigments and some pigment fixer for that. And then I'm also going to add some blood splatters to this left arm. I want to be careful to not get any of the blood splatters on the blade. Since it's a power blade, there wouldn't be any blood on it. It would just burn it right off. So the idea here is that as he's swinging his axe into his enemies, the blood will splatter up onto his arm and his pauldron. I'm going to be using an airbrush and some blood effect from Citadel for that.